we could speak the good July. Recruiting and everything. Live, okay?
Oh, yeah. You don't. Well,
Should be streaming.
We have got better as a season. We started off really looking bad this season. No change head coaches. I don't know. I don't see anything like that.
Oh, that?
Exactly the same thing you said last month. It's
I was gonna be here like 2 hours, so I wanted to find the
Take notice of cancellation.
Didn't me.
Oh, my.
I had a mayor tell me one time he'd never had to use the gavel. And I gotta tell you, I find that hard to believe. So, we're a little bit late getting started, but, this is the first meeting of our, new schedule where our meetings have been getting longer and longer. We've been staying way past my bedtime. So, council decided we would start on our meetings now, our regular monthly meetings at 6 o'clock, and this is the first one of those. So, I appreciate all of you being here. Welcome you to the Asheboro City Council meeting for Thursday, January the 9th. And we have a rather lengthy agenda, but we will move through this as expeditiously as possible. And Happy New Year, everybody. I would invite you to stand and join me in a moment of silent meditation. Invite you to pray in any manner that you are comfortable, and we will follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This is the appointed time at each meeting where we entertain comments, public comments, directed to the council. And if you're here and would like to speak to the council on any items of concern or city business, this is your opportunity. So I will ask the first person, I would, before I do that, ask you, if you address the council, there is a sign-up sheet on the podium. We'd like for you to print your name. And the only purpose of that is when we transcribe the audio tape, we can't always get the correct spelling from the audio tape, so we'd like to have your name printed on the list. And I will call on the first person that would like to address the council tonight. Ms. Scott, come on up.
Thank you. Let me get my name down here and then I'll start. Okay, so I came to speak on basically two topics tonight. The first is based on an incident that happened at my house recently. We had a visitor on our front porch. She was homeless. She had nowhere to go. It was raining that day, and so we just let her stay on the front porch for a little while until the rain stopped and she moved off. But we tried to find a place for her to go that night, and there was nothing in Asheboro. that she could go to. The men's shelter couldn't accept her because she was female. Lydia's place was full, and we were calling around to different places. I called Bill. Bill helped me try to get in touch with some places, and then she eventually just walked off on her own. I don't know what happened to her after that. It reminded me of another time when we were in Raleigh, and my daughter was moving her stuff from college to a storage facility for just a little bit. It was only for a couple of weeks while she went into an apartment. And we ran into a man who was helping people move for free. And then if you wanted to make a donation or something, you could. But we found out that he was actually there because he and his family were staying in the storage facility. They could not find housing. That was about 9 or 10 years ago. And they could not find anywhere to stay in Raleigh. And they had a car, they had transportation, he was working, but that was the only place they could afford to stay. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is with the cold temperatures, I would really like to see a warming shelter of some sort set up by the city of Asheboro like other cities do, so that we don't find somebody dead in a park the next day. And then the other reason that I'm speaking tonight, and let me grab my notes here, is about the traffic light on the 2 traffic lights they're replacing or thinking about replacing with all stops on Kivett and Park and Kivett and Church. I grew up in 5 Points. We've lived on Kivett Street now for over 20 years. And our daughter went to school at Donnelly Laughlin, and there are still a lot of elementary age school children walking to and from Laughlin Elementary, not necessarily with adults with them. Those traffic lights are at places where there have been a history of wrecks over many, many years. And that's why those lights were installed in the first place. And I'm worried that if we go to all stops, you're going to have people running those stop signs. And I'm especially concerned about small kids who don't know they can't be seen, especially if someone's in a large truck at one of those stops. Because we're talking about kids, this tall. And I don't want someone hit and injured or worse if that happens there. I think if you're thinking about doing that there, you really have to talk to the principal at Donnelly Laughlin Elementary. Okay, thank you. I'm glad to hear that, Walker.
I have an answer for you.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Nor are we in favor of it.
That is a DOT decision. They came to us and said, we've identified 3 lights that we'd like to take out, do 4-way stops, and we were floored.
They were all bad ideas.
There's sidewalk on one side of Church Street. Mm-hmm. That intersection goes uphill from the railroad tracks. You couldn't pick, in our way of thinking, you couldn't pick a worse intersection in Asheboro to take the stoplight away. We have expressed our displeasure with the DOT decision makers, and we are asking them to reconsider that.
As hard as we can.
Okay, good.
It's a ploy by them to shift costs. Nobody's taking the light out. The underlying issue is who's gonna pay to keep it up.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. All right.
And you may notice there are 3 lights at Worth and Elm and Worth and Main. Those are lights that the city actually owns that came over on Mayflower. We can't get parts for them anymore.
They're basically lanterns.
They're substandard. We are actually removing those, but those interchanges are all flat and good sight lines. So we are making that decision. The ones you're concerned about is a DOT decision, and we're asking, Trevor, have we communicated that to DOT?
We have an update on the agenda this evening.
Okay, you hang around long enough tonight, you'll figure out what we've heard from DOT.
Okay, thank you.
And there's a warming shelter open tonight.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it.
Washington Carver Center.
I think tonight through Saturday night.
Yeah.
7
Right.
p.m. to 7 a.m.
And the city does help fund Lydia's Place and the George Washington Carver Center, so indirectly we are doing that. The city has we have to follow the emergency management. So the county has not declared an emergency, so, but we went ahead, but we do fund those, and we have been in contact with the GWCC, and could they open it?
All right.
So we've
thank
been
you.
working behind the scenes to make that happen.
Glad to hear it. Thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to address council? Okay, hearing none, we will close the, public comment period, and I'd like at this point to ask the council to turn your agenda to item 14. And I'd like someone to make a motion, if you are in agreement, to move item 14 to the next item, to rearrange our agenda, to do some business, and you'll see why here in a minute. It's just a good approach to what we're getting ready to do. So,
Mayor, I'll make that motion.
we have a motion by Ms. Heath to move item 14 to the next item on item 3 point whatever.
3B.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so, for the purpose of our discussion, we will move item 14 to the next item on the agenda, and, do I call on Matt? Who do I call on? John?
Mayor, I'm, with the council's permission, I'll leave from the dais. And I would like to introduce my friend, my fellow professional, Mr. Donald Duncan, Mayor, and that would be appropriate for the council to take a motion on the second on his proposed, labor agreement, contract with the city, employment agreement, thanks to legal term.
Yes.
We have spent quite a bit of work, a lot of time involved with Matt Reese from the Piedmont Triad Regional Council of Governments, who we contracted with to do our search for a new professional manager to take the place of our longtime, 24-year, longtime manager, John Ogburn. And we have hammered out an agreement that seems to suit everybody involved, the applicant and the council, and we're ready to award the job. So, council, anybody have a motion to award this contract to Donald Duncan?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the employment agreement that we previously discussed in closed session for execution.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Do we have a second?
Second.
And where was this at? Mr. Trogdon down there. Okay, discussion. Well, I will just take this opportunity to say that with a lot of work, a lot of input from different people, and a yeoman's job on behalf of the regional council, we've come up with somebody we think is perfectly suited to be the next city manager of Asheboro. And we have a motion and a second. I will call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Notice that's unanimous. And we wanted to make sure that we were all in agreement, and it would be unanimous. So, Mr. Duncan, welcome aboard. the right person, which I've already said, and he has his family here. And Donald, would you like to introduce your family, because they're gonna be a huge part of this community?
Yes, and that's really what you've done. You're bringing somebody into your community, and I'm very humbled, and have some little bit of anxiety to follow up. Mr. Ogburn is a fantastic manager. He's well-known throughout the state, and he and I had never really had a conversation until the day I came to visit with him and said I might be interested. And it's like we were family. I've never had such a good kinship that quick, and he's like, let me tell you everything. And he did. And so that was the deciding factor, because he showed me everything, was very honest, and I'm so appreciative. You just don't know how much our family appreciates this, and we hope to not disappoint this great staff. That's really what makes a difference. You got fantastic people. They run the place. We just make sure the wheels don't fall off right. This is my son, Aiden, my daughter, Juliana, and my wife, Amanda. So we're looking forward to being a part of this community. Thank you so much, and thank you for the invitation.
We're just gonna let them, like a red sea.
I'm sorry, y'all.
Part of our methodology here for moving this item to the top of the agenda was to allow them to get back on the road to Caldwell County, is it?
Yes, sir.
They've got a little drive ahead of them to get home tonight, but I will tell you that they've already been out looking at houses.
Good. Expecting them to go get one tonight.
Close your door.
And start scraping my street tomorrow.
The what?
Donald just had his shortest council meeting.
Well, that's the truth. Something I need to sign.
So Mayor, while they're signing the paperwork, just for the media, Mr. Duncan's first day as city manager will be March 17th, Monday, March 17th. And he'll be sworn in as the city manager that morning. Holly will swear him in, and then we'll tag team together for 2 weeks. And then April 1st, I don't know what that says about me, but I go on terminal leave then, but I'll be available to support him any way I can. Please watch your email and your calendar. Mr. Deeth, Chairman from the Chamber of Commerce, and I intend to have a function and welcome Don and his family to the community. And one day we'll set you up with the school superintendents and the community college president, and you guys will come down, and my wife and I will take you out to dinner. My wife will tell you what I'm really like and all that stuff.
I don't know, St. Patrick's Day and April Fool's Day.
It's a long 2 weeks for a guy's last name's Ogden.
I'll leave you.
So,
Mr. Reese, you need to stay for a minute.
Can you stay for a minute?
Man.
Oh. So anyway, so that's the plan, and we'll get you guys up.
All right, we're good? All right, I asked Matt Reese to stay for a minute. I wanted to take a moment to publicly thank him and the regional council for their diligence in bringing us good qualified candidates. I will tell you that there were many, many qualified applicants wanting to come to Asheboro, because this man right here has left us in good shape. They gave us a reasonable number of very qualified people to interview and to consider, and we believe we came up with the best one for us that will fit this community. And our HR director, Doug Kemp, is standing back there, and he had a big hand in putting a lot of this they work together, and, just wanted to thank you guys publicly, and if it goes south on us, it's your fault.
Glad you stuck around for that.
It was often said that John Auburn's leaving big shoes to fill, and it's so true, and those were the biggest boots we could find.
So, I am not inviting you guys to leave, but we know you have,
But we're gonna talk about you.
We've
already done that.
And, don't want you out all night. I'm sure it's a school night.
Oh, they're gonna call
Of
it
course,
off.
up there in your neighborhood, it's probably already been called.
We call it off. It gets foggy and misty.
All right, so, we're excited. We really and truly are excited. Council's looking forward to working with Donald and getting to know you guys and making you comfortable in our community. So, all right,
It's a very easy place to connect to.
council, you have in front of you the consent agenda.
That was yours, the other two.
There was one item on the consent agenda, item,
We're asking Mayor, the staff's item that has withdrawn item I, 1 and 2.
Appreciate your
We'll talk about that, the ballpark, the fence for security at a council workshop. And then item 5 on your consent agenda, A, is a quasi judicial hearing, case number SUP 2402. The applicant has asked for a second continuous of this. This was scheduled all the way back in December, and that'll be continued to February 6th. We just read that into the record, Mayor. We don't need council to, we need council to approve the continuance.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
all right, let's work on the consent agenda. Is there any other item on the consent agenda that you would like to remove for individual discussion or consideration? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as it is presented in front of you.
Mayor, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented to us this evening.
We have a motion by Mr. Burks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Heath. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Consent agenda is approved with the one item removed. And then, item 5 is, Mr. Evans, Community Development Director, John Evans. 5A, is the one that John just mentioned. The applicant has asked for a second continuance, and I need a motion to approve the continuance.
Mayor, I move we approve the applicant's request for second continuance to the February 6, 2025 meeting.
Have a motion to approve the continuance you requested. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Swears. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Okay, 5A is removed, is actually continued until the next.
Can't wait for y'all to get here.
Nice to meet you, Amanda.
That's all right.
It's nice to meet you both. Can't wait to have you in the community.
Good to have you with us. Safe trip back up that way now.
It's enough.
All right, John Evans, let's see here. 5B, legislative hearing, which I will open on case RZ 24-24, which is an application to rezone property located at 207 East Pritchard Street from OA6 apartment to Mercantile.
Yes,
Have
sir.
at it, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Good evening, and good evening to council. So this request is being made by Mr. Rick Britt for property at 207 East Pritchard Street. There is one parcel identification number that's part of the request. It is to rezone the property from OA6 to a general mercantile district with no conditional use or no conditional district or specific use being considered. The property is about 8/10 of an acre. The last lien on the property was an insurance office classified as business services. And so the property is, if you look at the very first map, it's about in the very center of the screen there. It's the parcel that's outlined in the darker blue that's labeled as OA6. And so if you look at the surrounding zoning, you'll see a commercial in the red area along North Fayetteville Street. There is also some industrial zoning directly across along East Pritchard Street, which is a light industrial, and also part of North Fayetteville Street. As you go to the east, where you have the yellowish shaded areas, you have residential properties. The next slide shows you a closer view of the property. That is parcel A, and it shows you the adjoining parcels. I will note at this time that proper notification was given to these property owners, and a sign was posted on the property. The rezoning request was also properly advertised. In terms of topography, the land is fairly level relative to some of the surrounding properties, especially as you go to the east on East Pritchard Street. There is also water and sewer along East Pritchard. The aerial map shows you the property again outlined in red, so you can see that it is developed with the use and parking. And you can kind of see the transitional nature of the property with more commercial and industrial to the south and west and residential to the east. This shows you a little bit of a closer view of the property with the structure and the parking. This is from a little different angle. This is a view of the property from the street along East Pritchard Street. This is from another angle as you're headed towards North Fayetteville Street. This is looking toward the east. You see the residential area in that direction. And then this is looking west on East Pritchard Street, looking up towards North Fayetteville Street. It's about 350 feet away from that signal light. So just to go over what we haven't already covered, East Pritchard Street is considered a city-maintained minor thoroughfare. And you have on item 2 the OA6 description there on your screen and in your packets. One important point to note is that the mercantile district, unlike the OA6 district, would not allow residential activity. And then on the mercantile district, the distinction between that and some other commercial districts that you would see, for instance, along North Fayetteville Street, is it limits the number of uses. So it takes out some of the more intense uses that would be permitted in a B2 district. Some examples would be auto-related uses, motor vehicle repair, sales of manufactured homes, bars and nightclubs. Those more intensive uses that you would find in B2 would not be permitted in the mercantile district. And so the requested district would allow all uses permitted by right. There is no specific site plan that's part of the request. When we look at the land development plan map, we have the property mapped as neighborhood residential use. It is in the primary growth area because of being located within this, the city limits. It is not in the center city area, however. There are a total of 5 goals and policies that staff believes are supportive toward the request overall. Only one that's negative toward the request, and that is that the mercantile district doesn't match the neighborhood residential designation on the land development plan map. If we look at the overall consistency of the request and whether it is reasonable, we do believe that the mercantile district is an appropriate transition between commercial and industrial uses to the south and west, and then residential uses to the east. It eliminates some of those more intense uses that would be allowed in the B2 General Commercial District. I gave a few examples of those. And the zoning ordinance description of the mercantile district fits with the property's location because East Pritchard Street is classified as a minor thoroughfare. We also had B2 district that was applied to the property up until 2023 when this was rezoned to OA6. So the council may remember that zoning from just less than 2 years ago. So considering these factors, we believe the request is consistent with the land development plan and reasonable, and staff would recommend approval of the request. The planning board reviewed the request. They concurred with staff as well. So the applicant I'll mention is here in attendance tonight, but at this time I will pause and take any questions.
First, are there any questions of Mr. Nuttall? I'm sorry, Mr. Evans. For how many years now?
He's got the answers. No, no.
Don't look at you.
Yeah, I've been calling on Trevor at this juncture for how many years?
The same year we
12,
got traffic
yeah.
signals were taken out of.
12.
Well, you have to say Mr. Duncan.
So, okay, any questions at all? Do you have anything to add on behalf of the applicant?
No, sir. The applicant is here. I believe he may want to speak.
The applicant is represented.
I'm sorry, the applicant's representative. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you. I'm H.R. Gallimore. I'm not Ricky Britt, so settle that real quickly. So John just mentioned that for a little walk down history lane, this was B2 until a couple of years ago, which is kind of an oddity with some of the residential around. Mr. Britt at that time, he does own the laundromat next door, adjacent to the property, by the way. And he, through inheritance, and bought his sisters out with this property. And at that time, he asked me to present for OA6, which would have given him the opportunity to do both office and residential. But in considering the users and so forth there, and I don't think he was quite familiar with mercantile at that point, fairly new zoning jurisdiction for the city, and I think it's a good one, by the way. So he has decided that the users that would be there due to hours and not being somebody there 24/7, et cetera, that mercantile makes a little more sense being the owner and the neighbor next door. So I think it would be much lighter than B2. He didn't ask to go back to B2. He agreed that that was a little too intensive. Mercantile, in my mind, and hope you will agree, is a good fit for this request. Any questions if you have any? All right. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Happy New Year, guys.
Thanks. Council, what are your thoughts?
I got a question for Mr. Evans. Is there a buffer between this and the house down the street going east on Pritchard that's in the picture? Right, the next one down, that is a residence, right?
Yes, sir. It's a little difficult to tell with the tree there. It may be partially on the property. It looks like there is a tree there, kind of in the area, kind of where those drives split
Right.
off. So,
Is that, well, I mean, I didn't know what was on the right of that. Is that a residential? Looks, I mean, that parking area, it looks like it's,
There's plenty of cars. Is
Yeah.
it a
I
car
was
lot
gonna
in
say,
that
it looks
little
like a
building?
used car lot.
That's the laundry.
no, the laundry's on the left. Laundry's on the left and there's a house on the right, but I see this car. That's why I didn't know if,
I believe that is a residential property.
okay.
Is it a boarding house,
Is it-
John?
Um,
All the cars are there.
right.
The adjoining property owner was notified, right?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I'm just
So-
curious as to, you know, because we're right, anytime we butt up against residential, you just, you know, I've had to put it in.
Calderon, is that the auto dealer?
That's the laundry.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yes, sir. I apologize. I was kind of looking at that and then the other property to the east. So if that is a commercial, with the auto dealership, it would probably not require a buffer depending on the use that goes in there, so.
Well, that's why I'm just talking, I mean, the one right beside it is residential, and we're doing mercantile, and I just didn't know the difference. But then when I saw that picture earlier, when you scanned through and saw, you know, I just didn't know, I was asking.
Sure.
Mayor, based on the consistency statement provided by staff, I move we approve the consistency statement as being general in conformity with the plan, and move to approve the request as well to Mercantile.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Burks? Thank you. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now, Mr. Nuttall. Item 6, you're gonna request action on a resolution directing city personnel to conduct reviews, consultations, and inspections necessary for the future acceptance of the proposed dedication to the public of a roadway improvement as part of Pineview Homes development.
Thank you, Mayor. It is a long description. Hopefully I'll do a decent job of summarizing what this proposal is here this evening. But the purpose of having this conversation tonight is to report on a written proposal that the staff has received, which is included in your meeting packet, requesting the city to work with the landowner and to outline a process that could result in right-of-way being offered to the public if certain conditions are met. Those conditions are enumerated in the resolution as well. And your consideration, and should you adopt this resolution here this evening, would establish the framework by which this process would move forward. This is a request from Mr. Terry Tucker. He is one of the landowners who would be involved in this proposal here this evening. Best Assisted Living LLC also is a property owner that is involved. The proposal is for the landowner or landowners at private expense to make at their expense to make improvements to an existing driveway and area surrounding that driveway consistent with the city's practices and our standards for public rights-of-way that could, in the future, allow a public right-of-way to be accepted. And that would occur under separate action at a later date. These improvements would enable what has been a previously reviewed and approved residential townhome project, which is known as Pineview Homes, to be developed with publicly maintained streets as originally contemplated. I'll note there is some existing ribbon pavement within the boundaries of this project that ultimately would be removed and reconstructed in a new location that would allow this existing development and the new proposed residential development to have continuity of access, presumably via a publicly maintained street in the future. As you have already seen and approved via the Pineview Homes construction plans, roadways within that development would be inclusive of curb and gutter and sidewalks as required by the city's ordinance. In both instances, should you adopt this resolution here this evening, city staff, primarily engineering and public works staff, would have some involvement in overseeing any type of work that may occur in anticipation of a future offer of dedication to the city. After all of these improvements, primarily the roadway improvements, are completed, the developer would provide the city with that offer of public dedication for final action by the city council. So the city is not, would not be constructing any of the improvements. We would just be essentially aware and involved in a framework that would allow this to be offered to the city and accepted if chosen by the council. We felt like a couple maps would help here. This is an image that shows the existing development, which is known as North Point Senior Care. You can see that on the northernmost parcel, Pineview Road. This is right at Pineview and the interstate. That existing driveway, that private easement that we've been referencing is shown with that yellow arrow to the west of the property. And that private driveway presently just provides access to North Point Senior Care, and it stops before it gets to the property to the south, which is the location of the proposed townhome project. So that is a depiction of what is proposed here this evening. In order for the new roadways within the townhome project to be public, the segment between that development and Pineview also has to be public. And so this is what is setting that in motion. What has been requested by the landowners is for the city to be aware of this intention and to see if there is a willingness to partner in designing this. The conditions that I mentioned would be connected to the resolution and outline what we would anticipate to need to occur before the city council would consider a future offer of dedication of the roadways. And I won't read those unless you want me to go into any one in great detail, but the staff in discussing the proposal with the property owners and internally believes that these 5 conditions, if accepted, would put everyone in a position for the council to could be able to consider whether you want to accept these roadways as public. From the written proposal, we've added to this map the proposed area of that right-of-way that would be offered in addition to the right-of-ways within the townhome project. And so if we zoom in a little closer here, you can see there are basically 2 construction projects occurring. One is to make improvements to that existing driveway, which would set it up for the city to be able to accept it at a later point. And then you have construction of the residential project and the streets within that community. And so we've tried to present these maps to give you an idea of what is taking place. Mr. Bell, do you have a question?
I do. Is the current private driveway along the lot line, and does the proposed public access, would that encroach on a separate parcel, or is it along the lot line?
There is a boundary between the Best Assisted Living LLC property and Mr. Tucker's property. This driveway essentially straddles a little bit on each of their property, but they have been working together in order to present a proposal that ultimately would see the city
Just those 2?
accepting it. Just those 2. There are no other parties involved.
Who unfold this?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because it's a.
But thank you for that. Yes, there are two and only 2 property owners that would be involved. Just to close here, our recommendation is for the council to adopt this resolution as it outlines a framework and the steps to be taken by the landowner or developers, as well as the staff to take in order for you as a board to be able to consider a future offer of public dedication. Mr. Marziano is present here. He is one of the designers involved on the project. I asked him to be here in case he needed to correct anything that I misstated, but he can help me answer any questions if there are any.
Well, my understanding when this first come up, we looked at it, that last 200 feet down there, I mean, the roadway section is a little asymmetrical within the right-of-way, which is not unusual at all, but the tail end down there was just got off, so it looks like they've corrected the horizontal alignment of the road, so I don't,
Yep.
I believe the primary concern has been addressed, so.
That, part of that, correct, is to address that alignment issues for this to be a continuous public right-of-way, should you adopt it in the future.
Is the applicant amenable to the conditions?
We have shared the resolution, and I'll defer to Mr. Marziano, but we have shared those conditions. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm Hiram Marziano. I'm the project engineer for Terry Tucker on the Pinewood Homes site. And Terry couldn't be here tonight, and he asked me to come in his place and try to field your questions. Basically, everything Trevor told you is what's been working for the last year, actually. The project, the site was originally just one parcel, and it was bought by Mr. Tucker in the 90s to, as a speculative venture. And as it turned out, about half the property was subdivided because Best Assisted Living entity came up and wanted to build an assisted living complex there, which has been there since 2005, I think. And there was a 60-foot wide strip of land that Terry Tucker still owned that went back to the back portion of the property, so it wasn't landlocked and could be used to serve that property in the future if something else wanted to go there. And if you look at the tax maps on the GIS system, it shows the road was built in that 60-foot. In actuality, it wasn't. It was built closer to the assisted living complex. And that road, a little over half of that road now is a private drive that has in and out access to that property. And at the time it was built, the road was extended back to Terry Tucker's property. It was built by city standards at that time also. When we designed the site with the curves and the layout we came up with, we had intended to come into that 60-foot access. As Councilman Walker pointed out, it was asymmetrical, and we had to do a reverse curve, a compound curve, which is very slight. The speed limit is modest going through there. I doubt if people can, if my wife's not driving, we'll go over 25 miles an hour. So it would be no problem to make the transition that we made. And it actually fits into DOT standards for that type of development. Mr. Tucker made a proposal which is attached as Exhibit 1 to the document that Trevor passed out to you. And it indicates basically that he's going to clear the 60 feet. He's going to clear all of the right-of-way that's going to be accepted or dedicated to the city. It will be built to, it will be cleaned, cleared, accessible, should be mowable. And the portion left over, there will be a remnant of land left over. I think that's between Terry Tucker and the owner of Best Assisted, be a land swap there, but all of the 50-foot right-of-way would be dedicated to the city. From that point, he will go and build his roads and make the tie-in. And it's going to take, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months to do all that work in there, and then they've got to build condominiums, duplexes. And so any damage that occurs to the existing road, he proposes to bring it back up to standards acceptable to the city. And as the resolution says, you will be providing some inspection and acceptance during the construction also. Inside the park development, there will be new paving, new curb and gutter, and if there's any rim tears or disturbance in the asphalt, he'll pave everything at that time and fix it back to standards. Usually you leave the asphalt down an inch or so while you're doing the building of the structures, and then put that wearing surface back on when everything's ready to sail.
Let me ask, so this is basically a private driveway now? right?
Currently, yes.
Okay, and, of course, now the assisted living people are on board with this, right?
Yes, sir.
And like during construction of the driveway, I mean, you're gonna have people coming in and out of assisted living, I mean, you're gonna need to keep a good road in there, you understand what I'm
That's right.
So
That's
you're
right.
willing to do that, right?
That's right.
And,
It's far enough away that once he gets his equipment through there, it shouldn't disturb any of the people that have to go into the assisted living area. There's construction noise, but that'll be a minimum, but there'll be some graders running early on, but after that, there should be very little noise. I don't know about rock. We haven't made a rock investigation, but when the, when it was originally built up here.
it will improve the whole property, but still, I can see a pretty big mess. And I know, right, that's a pretty big assisted living there, you know.
That's
so
right.
that You would really need to work with them. They're on board with this fully.
That's right. They know what the project is. Autry Butler is the owner. He's an attorney in Fayetteville, and we've been in close contact with him.
Okay, thank you.
And we have it in writing from it that he's good with anything that Terry wants to do.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Mayor, Mr. Marziano, we do have Mr. Tucker's proposal dated December 20th, but specifically the 5 conditions proposed by staff, are those amenable to Mr. Tucker?
He's seen those and is in agreement with that.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Any other questions? Thank you, Clark. What's your pleasure, council?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we direct the staff to enter into all the investigation as described in item 6 to facilitate the construction as outlined by Mr. Marziano and shown on the attached drawing.
I took that as mayor, to approve the resolution. And I'll second that.
All right. We got a motion there.
Anyway, you want, just take it.
Just take it.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nuttall, item 7. You're gonna answer all of Ms. Scott's questions about those stoplights.
They may go deeper.
I will give you an update on the conversations that we have had, and then we'll take direction from the board on how you do wish to proceed. As we mentioned at the end of the meeting last month, where we brought this up under items on the agenda because it was kind of new to us, we shared this potential with you all. Many of you had contacted me individually and expressed concerns as were described here earlier this evening. The staff, following last month's meeting, communicated those concerns that we were hearing from the council and that the staff ourselves had related to not just safety, but on the operational efficiency if such conversions were to occur. We did want to give you all the data that the DOT had shared with us, which is part of how the agency determines are signals warranted. And so there's a whole lot of data and charts in there with some characteristics of these intersections that may indicate that there are some warrants for a signal. I think in the Park and Sunset intersection in particular, there were some characteristics of that intersection that even the state's own system would say, you know, is pretty close, could really warrant that. The other 2 intersections, if you look at the data that they provided, at least by metrics alone, would suggest that they may not be warranted. However, they did reach out to us, and they understand that we probably know the neighborhoods better than anyone, and gave us that opportunity to share any concerns the public or the board members have. And so we feel we have done that. We have, in no uncertain terms, expressed that we have real objection to this at this point, which is under consideration. And so I think we are several months and decision points away at the state level for them to ultimately make a decision on how they may proceed. But we will, it has been suggested that perhaps the council may want to consider a resolution addressing this topic. And the whole reason we brought it back to you was to, number one, give you the data that they shared with us, and take direction if you want to withhold any type of formal action on this until, you know, they provide us additional information, or if you'd like the council to just proceed with something for you to look at to formally present to the state.
I would suggest, as you go forward with this, my brief summary of their information, I was gonna say primary, but apparently only criteria that they've used in their information is volume. And they did at least pick up on Park and Sunset, you know, that there were very significant peak hour periods, which we all know, you know, at school time or it's not, meal time's not what it was, but at 5 o'clock. My question is there's been no evaluation that I see attached here relative to site distance and grade elevations. I think Kivett and Church, they flunked that mightily. You know, quite frankly, so does all of them do. You know, they're between the existing utilities that are in the way, and you just can't see around the corner to see what's coming. So I think there's far more criteria additionally to be considered. Sure. Although I strongly suspect that they know this as well. They're just looking for somebody to take over the maintenance of those stoplights.
As I shared, I think some of what you're describing in terms of analysis it could very well be because they are relatively early in this process. And I do want to say we are appreciative that we were notified early in this process and having this opportunity to have this conversation. They have been very open with us about this, and having the ability to offer input at the front end is very much appreciated. I do think there's still some analysis, and they made it clear to us that they would go back and look at these three again. And we can take two approaches. As we get information, we can bring it public and let you all know. If you all want to take a more affirmative stance, kind of to express opposition to this, we'll take that direction from you all.
They have multiple budgets for this sort of thing, and I think it more clearly falls under their safety budget. That's a whole different category. And Aberdeen has that for the whole division, and I really think that this falls closer under safety than traffic counts.
Especially with the school.
Given the tremendous warm welcome they've had for the roundabout at Eulum. Hopefully this could fall under that category. I mean, there's just more functionality to this than the particular car count that minute. Because if it was simply car count, they can trigger the control boxes to flash if they want them to, and that'll produce the exact same effect.
And I think,
How did they do the pedestrian count of this? How did
School
they do the
compounds
pedestrian
a
count?
problem.
well, and we just,
Because these roads, especially Church Street, is really heavy pedestrian street. I mean, how do they count that?
CNI.
Just, they have people that pay just to,
No, they just set up a little I-trip, you know, on the sidewalk.
or for
Just like, you know,
pedestrians
the
too?
little rubber hose you see on the road for the car.
Yeah, okay.
It's similar to that.
Okay,
It's not unusual in the summer for them to send interns to
I
just
think I
literally
saw
sit
that.
there.
Everybody content to sit back and wait for a little more information from DOT, and then consider at that point possibly a resolution opposing.
It's possible that they may come back with just one that they want to talk to us about, but we won't know until I think they complete their analysis.
I appreciate you bringing this to us tonight for the update. And I greatly appreciate you making our thoughts known to DOT on this. Because when you told us about it last month, not one of us thought that was a particularly good idea.
My office is on Kivett, and I travel that road. I'll drive all those roads, I have for the last 50 years or more. And I can tell you, it can be like Russian roulette with the lights. You know, people waiting, turning, and all that type stuff. And you got the fire department, and you got the school, and you got Memorial Park in the summer. You got the ABC store flow line going that way. I mean, there's just a lot more traffic. I'm not talking about. The diversity of everything in that area, and those apartments and apartments that are coming in.
Exactly.
I mean, you just can't, there's no justifiable reason to even consider that.
No
If you want to go in
good,
the standard drawing book, none of these intersections meet the site
Technically.
distance criteria, period.
Yeah.
okay,
They
let's
wouldn't
move
let
on.
us build it.
All right,
Mayor, and I'll reach out to the superintendent, Dr. Woody, as Ms. Scott was mentioning, the Asheboro City Schools has a walk-to-school policy. So if you live within a mile or 1.25 miles or 1.5 miles of the school, you can't get on the school bus.
It's smaller distance than Harold Moffitt's was.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, really,
10
really,
miles
you
in
know,
the
and
snow.
so that's a
It's the
significant.
high school traffic too. Kids
Yeah.
from the high school, just, I mean, at the end of school, man, they coming up, that's Church Street.
how many units they building on the corner of Kivett and
48, I think.
48
46,
units?
40, yeah.
it's just a bad idea.
It's just bad. It's
So, all right, let's move on. Item 7, item 8.
Wouldn't be the first I had, but I've had a few too.
Mr. Nuttall is gonna provide an update on efforts to amend CDBG CV 20.
Yes, Mayor, we felt it was time just to update everyone on our efforts to amend our community development block grant funding program, as we previously had suggested in pursuit of funds for the Gerald Center City Garden. There have been some developments along that effort. The first is that we have learned that the environmental review that we performed on the garden property, which was a requirement for that $300,000 land and water conservation funding grant that we were successful in obtaining, is not sufficient for us to comply with the environmental review standard for CDBG funding. It is a different process. Those are different environmental rules that have to be followed. They are all looking at the same thing, but they use different code of federal regulations. And in essence, it means we have to redo a lot of work that we previously had done relative to the environmental conditions of the site. One thing that means is that it adds time. It'll add some cost to the city for us to undergo that specific process to meet those requirements. We have requested a proposal from a firm that is very experienced with the CDBG environmental assessment standards. We'd like to talk to them about what would be needed, and if we can shorten that process or gain any efficiency from what we've already done. But we also want to talk to them about what they see as the likelihood of success in pursuing these funds. I will say informally, but not surprisingly to most people, we have learned that it's likely that a lot of state resources, including those unobligated or non-obligated CDBG funds, are going to be redirected, have already started to be redirected to assist with recovery efforts in Western North Carolina. That is obviously a new development. 4 months ago, there was a lot of conversation about some excess funding that the Commerce Department had because many CDBG projects did not move forward. Then you have the storms, and that has completely changed the environment. So we don't want to spend time and resources without knowing that it's a good likelihood of success. So what I'll say is we continue and have been continuing to pursue all opportunities for grant funding. We are continuing to look at non-CDBG funding sources. I will say for most public grants, you can't use one state or federal funding grant to provide a required match for another state or federal grant. The nice thing about the CDBG program is for that $300,000 match for the Land and Water Conservation Fund, CDBG was the one program that you could actually use another grant funding source to provide the required match. And obviously that was attractive to us. We're just not convinced it's at this point that what that outcome will be. And so we are continuing along that line. We do want to bring in some folks to help us navigate that, but in the meantime, what we are doing is looking for other funding sources. So our goal is to find this $300,000 to somehow match Land and Water Conservation Fund so we can begin the first phase of that project, because otherwise, as we've discussed, it would take a local appropriation, and you all have already said that there are other priorities out there that we need to tackle. So really just wanted to be open with folks about where we stand on this project.
Trevor, was there any indication about the other projects, that how they were coming along, or if?
Yeah, I would say those other 5 or 6 projects who were pursuing new CDBG funds that had not been spent in prior years are even more uncertain in terms of success than the city has. Our only advantage is that we have a little bit of leftover money from that we had already been awarded. Those other projects would be brand new applications. So unfortunately, and I have shared this with all our partners that appeared, and we're hopeful to get funding that. Just in all honesty, it is going to be a real uphill battle until some conditions change in some form or fashion. So the best bet I think we have is somehow trying to, if we can reassign the $240,000 that we already have our name on it. There's an opportunity for that to happen. Additional funding beyond that, I think, is going to be very difficult.
Holly, are you cold? Debbie, you're cold.
I got my jacket on.
Okay.
There's one back in the corner.
Then we're good. Well, he's never cold. It could be 10 degrees outside, he doesn't even know it. All right, so, Mr. Hutchins, you gonna give us an update on tomorrow's inclement weather?
Yeah, hope that works out for everybody. A little rusty. Now, you throw me off. You let me meet my new boss in front of the old boss. But don't worry, John. I'll take care of it.
Okay.
I've been doing what you say for too long.
Hey, as long as you scrape my street first, we're good.
You're still the mayor.
He does.
Listen to me,
Kids on my street say leave it alone.
Yeah, we get that a lot. They'll throw snowball. You go through certain places in Greystone, you'll get thrown snowballs. But anyway, we're gearing up. It's been about 3 years since we had any weather like this. Needless to say, we've had a lot of turnover, so we're doing a lot of training this time. About half. We had enough experienced drivers to put in plows to train the ones that are not experienced. Just barely. I almost had to get one, and
Well, it's gonna be
yeah, I started to call you.
I'm somewhat trained.
Somewhat, yeah. Where'd my picture go?
Hit the top button.
I did.
There you go.
Trevor, what you doing? I hit the top button.
I've got a CDL, but I have to be home at 8.
Well, I had some of just a couple of pictures here to show you, but somebody might have let me down. We got snow plows. We've got all those put on now, ready to go.
Headlights.
Matter of fact, chains. We started putting chains on the trucks today. We've got one truck that I left chains off of because the water department, they're getting hit hard today. I don't know what it is, streets that start with W, Watkins, Ward. We've had a lot of water main breaks today. Matter of fact, 5 big ones, 1 2-inch line. When I left to come up here, the water department's getting ready to hit the last one and knock it out, cause they'd rather do it now than take a chance on tomorrow. So when I leave here, I'll get with them, make sure they're all right, but, and 3 sewer overflows, so, well, not overflows, backups, so they're pretty much handled. So that truck will be chained tomorrow. We'll put the chains on the motor grader tomorrow. It's good to have when you need it, especially if this stuff's hard to leave. Salt brine, we started making and putting out salt brine yesterday. We're running 4 trucks. We've pretty much covered all the highlighted areas, all the special places, all the bad hills and stuff. And now, 3 of those trucks we pulled to put chains on, but we still got one on a smaller truck that we'll probably keep running to fill in gaps or just to go through and make sure there's nothing we missed, because, you know, years ago when we started the salt brine, we tested it. It does help. It does make a difference. We've got our salt. We've had plenty since, we've not used any since the last time we bought any, so we're pretty good on that, but probably after this time, we'll probably have to buy some next spring.
And how are prices on that stuff, David?
I don't
What's
know,
it looking like?
cause we hadn't bought none in so long. The last time we bought any, it was probably around $90-$95 a ton.
They're better in July.
But what we do is like in the spring of the year, when the summer, when the state's replenishing, because they have their contract, we buy off their contract, so we go to DOT Southtown, and then whatever they sell us, we haul it. We run over our scales in the transfer station, cause they're certified. That's what they bill us off of. We haul it and replenish ours till we're full, and then, you know, they keep hauling till they get theirs full. But we buy, and we get the state's price, cause they buy so much more, they get, if they get it for $90 a ton, it's gonna cost me $150, $175. So,
Tell us what your bagged salt's done.
the last time we put out salt brine, we used bag salt because our equipment, the salt has to be clean. So we buy bag salt. Last time we put it out, we were paying like $3 a bag. It's went up to $9 and some change a bag since the last time we used it. But there again, you know, you're only mixing it about 20% solution, so it makes a big difference at the end of the day.
So going 3 or 4 years without a major snow and ice event helps our budget.
Yeah, cause typically what I do is I keep 8 pallets in stock of that salt. There's 49 on the pallet. Typically that's enough to do 1.5, 2 runs. And then as we use it, I go ahead and, like when we started this, I went ahead and bought what we were using to have it in case we have another one. And that's when I got the sticker shock and found out it tripled. And there you go. We use pumps on our trucks, so we don't let it free fall because we feel like we got more control and we're not wasting as much product. But that's one of the trucks we've been running. That was on Wayman there by the school. But yeah, we hit our schools and the hospitals and important places first. And that's it. But yeah, we got the salt brine going. We got everything geared up. We've got chainsaws and other equipment if this turns into a tree thing. I'm thinking we're gonna get more of a mix than all snow, so we're trying to be prepared on front. We got crews put together in case we have a tree problem. Jimmy's gonna be taking care of our facilities and some of our sidewalks and stuff, so.
I can help you with chainsaw work.
Yeah. I don't know that worker comp's gonna go along with that.
I would like to see you finish your term, so I'm gonna say nothing.
Well, I've had quite a bit of experience with water line breaks now. I've been looking at y'all.
Yeah,
Probably do a little bit, you know.
yeah,
But-
yeah.
You get your wooden leg to go with Captain Fly back there.
I got a plastic.
Mr. Trigan over here, I know he's got some experience in equipment.
Chainsaw for Christmas.
Clark, he'd be a hoot in the truck, but yeah.
I'm the one throwing the snowball.
I mean, typically, you know, we're gonna break into shifts. I'm looking at right now, from what I'm seeing, unless something changes, I'm gonna break into 12-hour shifts about noon tomorrow. With Public Services Department and Fleet Maintenance, and a handful of operations guys. But, Water Department, I'm trying to leave them alone, cause they always have water issues and stuff. But, we're getting everything back on track. It's coming back to us. We're getting back in the groove, so I think we'll be ready. And we got some people who are gonna be good at training some new people, so.
Yeah,
you have
this
any
is-
problems or questions?
This
give
is
me a
great
call.
information. I saw, Lisa, you had already shared some things on social media, so it's good for the public to know this information, so thank you
Well,
for the
one thing we do
presentation.
too, like 911 will call, emergency services will call me, if they have problems getting an ambulance to a certain address or something. And, we'll look, most of our trucks, we usually have, when we do these events, we put GPS tracking in them, so I can tell where they're at what, because if we get a call from emergency services, I know this truck's right here, that's the closest one, I can send them to clear the way for the ambulance. So we do that a lot.
And we do start at the hospital and the water plant, wastewater plant, and work out the hospitals where we go first.
Yeah, all that's been Brian.
We Brian the ABC store.
Yeah.
I know.
Traffic usually keeps that moving.
I'll check on that. But yeah, if y'all have any concerns or problems over the weekend, feel free to give us a
Nothing
shout.
in our phrase.
Any questions that come to you, just let us know. We'll help you out.
Good job, David.
Thank
you.
Thank you so much.
Y'all have a good night.
Thank you.
You too.
Mr. Roney. Yeah, starting 6 o'clock turned out to be a pretty good deal.
So far, so good.
We're only 20 minutes into we start.
While Mr. Roney's coming up, his 3 daughters don't live around here either, so we had a pity party first thing Monday morning, and his girls were gone and my girls were gone, and boy, our houses sure were quiet.
Yes, that's true. Good evening.
Good evening.
So as you know, we're excited. Asheboro's growing. Growth is great, but with growth comes capacity issues. So tonight I'm here to talk to you about the potential for implementation of water and sewer system development fees. Came up, we were reviewing a subdivision preliminary plat a few months ago, and came up, I may have been Mr. Moffett, I think, was discussing what about system development fees. So with that and guidance, I've decided to come to you tonight just to present to you what systems development fees are and where we are, what it looks like. So you may have heard the term before previously, impact fees, capacity fees. Those were bad words because basically there were jurisdictions implementing those in the past without legislative authority. So in 2017, the legislature passed House Bill 436, and that House bill was a way to give public water supplies the authority to implement system development fees. So we now have the authority per that House bill. So water system development fees, that's hard to say, by the way. They're charges imposed on each new customer development that generally offsets the incremental cost of replacing existing and/or constructing new capital assets. It helps build capacity, okay? We've only got a limited amount of capacity, not only in our plants, but also in our water distribution lines and our sewer collection lines, sewer lift stations, water tanks, all that. We only have so much capacity, so we have to continue to build capacity and expand capacity. This is a way to help us do that and meet the demands placed on our system. The primary use of these system development funds is to fund the construction of new water sewer lines, treatment plants, pump stations, or upgrade the capacity in the existing systems we have. By charging a fee to new customers, it takes the burden off of our existing customers. So we're placing the burden on the new development, not hitting our current customers with the expense of the expansion. And I referred to the House bill before. So this House bill has a lot of requirements. It's pretty stringent. So what are some of the things that are required and that we have to do to even begin looking at the system development fees? They're based on a written analysis. Has to be prepared by a professional. Can either be a professional financial person, a licensed professional engineer, or other professional, and they're using good data and creating analysis, developing these fees from numbers. They're not just pulled out of the sky. They're engineered, they're calculated, they're reliable, and they're sufficient. It employs general accepted accounting, engineering, and planning methodologies, and eventually you calculate final system development fee per service of unit. Usually most of the, I've been researching other utilities, and most of them are based on meter size. There's a meter size, a certain fee for a 3/4 inch up to a 12 inch. And water and sewer are based on those meter sizes, is how things are. It could be based on gallons, but most everything I'm seeing is on meter sizes. So once those fees are calculated, we have to actually, the timing's perfect since we're working on the capital improvement plan at the same time. That is the data that a consultant needs. They need to know what our capital needs are, and they're using those future capital needs to develop these costs and come up with these rates.
Would
these
this
fees.
turn into like a flat fee for, say, a 12-inch sewer tap?
Yes.
And it would be immaterial, like if this tract of land, you were in a certain area and the pump station was adequate and all they needed was a sewer tap, as opposed to you go, say, out Pritchard Street, it's probably gonna require a lift station and that sort of thing. So it's not gonna be site-specific, it's gonna be a kind of a weighted average.
I've seen one or two that get site-specific, but no, they're not.
I've seen them get site-specific when they involve lift station work.
Right, no.
You know, that they enumerate that separately.
Correct.
Just like to make you buy a fire truck.
Most everything I've seen is one unit, one rate, yes.
Of course,
And
in
it-
South Carolina, they tend to, they don't bother with that first step.
It's averages.
They just make it.
And
South Carolina.
and once that, okay, so the other requirement is you have to have a planning period of no less than 10 years up to 20 years. So we can't just say we want to build something next year and go. It's got to be a long-term plan to develop these fees. So, and once these fees are, a rate schedule is established, it comes back to council, governing board, and you can set fees and by resolution. Typically with the budget, you would adopt these fees and we would have system development fees built into our fee structure. So that's how it works.
There could be some parity in that. If not, it could be more harmful to one piece of, one property owner's land than another. So it's gotta come somewhere.
Okay.
That's my whole thing, but it's gotta come somewhere, and it don't need to be those of us living here.
Okay. So, what happens is, the consultant comes with the fees, with a plan, and, then we have to give public 45 days to review. We just post it on the website, advertise it, it's there for public comment. Then the next step would be governing board has a public hearing, considering these fees, this fee structure, this whole plan. And then, if council so desires, you adopt an ordinance or a resolution adopting these fees, and we have system development fees in place. One of the requirements of the House bill is that it does have to be updated every 5 years by that professional. So it's continued. So prices change, needs change, so you got to keep it. It's an active plan. It's a live plan. So what can we use those revenues for from these fees? Definitely construction. That's what it's for. Build plants, build lift stations, upsize pipes. It also covers survey and engineering fees, land acquisition costs, and your debt finance.
You'll never beat that.
Also, we can actually build into it the 5-year plan and just keeping the professional fees for keeping the plan up to date. That's all part of it, part of what you can add to the fees. There was a caveat in there, I was surprised. Wish we didn't have any projects that we needed the next 5 years, but you could actually go back and apply it to debt you had now if you didn't have any projects in your 5-year plan, but we're not there, so.
It's better to be the one we have than the other.
Yes, yes.
You got a problem if you go.
2008, we had it the other way.
Right.
My guess is if you can meet that criteria, you don't have any development. Or developers.
True. So when do you collect these fees? Typically, it's when the plat's ready to record. The fees would fall on the developer. Or when the governing board commits the service to that land subdivision. or if it were just a non-subdivided project, a large industry coming to town, it would be when that particular industry or customer makes a tap to our system, then they would have to pay the development fee at that time. Now, big rule in there. This system development fee is not to be used to burden and discourage development, okay? Which we're encouraging development all we can, I know, so, but it cannot unduly burden new development.
One thing you talking about when the fee could be collected, that I've seen different interpretations of this. Is this fee transferable? In other words, if person A buys or options a piece of land or whatever and goes through that step and gets far enough along to pay that fee, and then for whatever reason the project or something doesn't get built, but they can sell the plans and in other words, once it's paid for a project, it's paid.
Yes.
No matter who builds it or who's the owner.
Yes, I did not see that in the bill anywhere.
Once you purchase it, every place, it is an asset. I mean, because I've seen the land parcels that we looked at marketed that, fees paid.
Yeah, I would think it would run with the ground, not with the
Correct.
Yeah.
Is there gonna be a way to find out early in the process, because most of the developers, I mean, if they're in a bad, I mean, that's gonna make the marketability of the land.
Exactly. That's
And I
part of
mean,
it.
and they need to have an idea before they ever, and we run into that with buildings and what kind of permitting we're gonna have, or, how they're gonna classify it, and all that type of stuff. And that has a huge impact on the overall budget, or in this case, the land sale.
What I've seen is you work with a consultant, they do the analysis, they come back and say, they give me an initial report, a preliminary report, and says, this is what it looks like. I can share that with council at that time, and you can say, whoa, that's ridiculous. We can't do that. We can't, that's a burden. It's at your discretion where that rate falls. But we have the analysis
The burden folks too, your local folks that are used to living here are gonna feel way more burdened than a developer coming in with a plan that's used to paying this.
Right.
So
Right.
I just wanna know when somebody's out there prospecting.
Right.
Properties, they could actually come in and say, hey, I'm looking at this piece of property, can you give me a range of, well, I'll say impact, but
Right.
can you give me a range of what this fee might be versus these two pieces of property?
They got to have it or they can't do the feasibility study.
Yeah,
to approve the
exactly.
plan.
So, I mean, that's, I mean, we need to have that ability, if we implement this, to be able to tell people early on.
But this analysis is gonna have that fee built into it, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so they will be able to come in and.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You'll be able to, okay, good.
Any other questions? Where we are is just kind of wanted to get council's guidance on if this is something you want to explore. Of course, we have to have professional services to do it. Believe it or not, the night this was discussed, there was a consultant in the room, and I didn't get out in the hallway, and we can do that for you. So,
I bet I know it.
we've got consultants lined up, and believe they've already.
So how will you do that? You'll just, a consultant, you'll decide who you want for this particular job, or how many jobs a particular consultant's getting? or something like that?
We get into the mini Brooks Act there is, we have to advertise and get proposals from consultants. But the mini Brooks Act gives us an exemption for any projects that are services under $50,000, and this one will fall under that threshold. So we have the authority to go ahead and move forward with consultant if it's under that threshold.
Okay.
And the city manager has that authority to go ahead and enter that professional services agreement at council's wish. I mean, you can tell me to advertise and go through the whole RFQ process, and that's fine.
Will these be local people? We have to go outside the town?
The local people could do it, but they don't have the time. I can tell you that. We would give them the opportunity, yes.
But we have,
But
we have lots of existing contracts with.
There are consultants that we're working with now that we would go to.
It seems like it's a better option since this will be part of the budget process.
Yes.
To go ahead and since John has the authority to do this, that just, so you're just really looking for consensus.
Consensus.
From us, that's
exactly right.
appropriate.
I think it's much more feasible than asking our existing customers to finance.
Right.
This is unavoidable.
But once again, we go through the process. I bring it back to you. We already know, about 45 days to collect data, look at our cost, what our future is, what our system looks like. The consultant brings me a report, we review a report, then we have to post that 45-day public review. Then you have to have a public hearing, and even then, you can say, we don't like this, it's gone, but it's something we need to investigate, so, but that's where we are.
We need to investigate it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's what we are looking for, is consensus to
Absolutely.
move forward and to go ahead and bring someone under contract with a PSA and.
So every town our size is gonna be doing this, right?
Yes, I think so. Most of the larger municipalities around us have done it, yes. I've
And
done
Art,
research
in
on that.
Randolph County, Artsdale already does it.
Art still does it, so.
Is R still doing it now?
Yes, sir.
Everything,
They've been doing it a long time.
everything in Guilford does.
We also get,
I know
couldn't do it too.
Hence HB 436.
Right, exactly. Most people,
Randall gonna
a
be
lot of people were doing it before they had authority to do it, so.
Is Randall gonna be doing it, town that size?
They should with the type of development they got coming in.
True.
You know, Randleman's complicated because they got to get additional utility service from other players, but that's still a cost. It's all got to go through Randleman because the developer has to work with Randleman.
So, yeah, but really, that's what we're looking for is consensus tonight, so.
You got it.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you.
That's right.
Thank you.
Take it to them carpetbaggers.
Thanks, Michael. All right.
We gotta slow down the building just a little.
No, I don't want to do it.
Mr. Leonard, you have an annexation petition.
Buys a house.
Where you get copies if you didn't know.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for the petition received from the Buchanan Fraser LLC requesting the contiguous annexation of a parcel located at 801 Hub Morris Road and containing 44.147 acres. This item was presented at the December council meeting, and a resolution has been properly advertised, and now's the time for the public hearing.
I'll open the public hearing, which I should have already done, and ask if there's anyone in the room that would like to speak to the council regarding this annexation petition. Hearing none, I will ask Mr. Leonard to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have an annexation ordinance prepared by the city attorney making the annexation effective upon adoption, and staff recommends it.
We have a recommendation to adopt by reference.
Mayor, I move we adopt the ordinance, extending the city limits by reference.
I have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Moffett. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. The annexation petition is approved. Are you done?
No.
Airport. He just getting started.
Okay, step on back up there.
Back in the box, ladder.
Item 12A is, item 12 concerns Asheboro Regional Airport items. Have at it, sir.
So the first item concerns consideration from a recommendation of the Airport Authority for a 80 by 80 hangar by John Dirksen, and it'd be east of the new corporate hangar.
Yes, but with your permission, I'll just go ahead and go with that. There's a resolution in front of you for this to be approved. Bottom line, that's the action that's going to be requested, is approval of the lease of the space for building. And the actual area is a little bit bigger than that. It's a 95-foot by 95-foot, or 9,025 square feet for the construction of the hangar and your things like HVAC on the outside, so you have the space. The agreement that is attached to the resolution, it reflects the recommendations that you previously received from the Airport Authority. It was advertised as required by state statute. What will happen is that space currently does not have a hangar on it, upon execution, they've got to start within 120 days of the commencement date to construct. Once the certificate of occupancy is obtained, they have 30 days to convey the building through a bill of sale and deed that's attached to the lease to the city, and then they will move forward. Durabuilt is the LLC. That'd be the tenant. It has a term of 30 years. The annual amount on that is $902.50 per year. And like I said, the airport authority's recommendations about insurance, the apron, things like that are all included within the lease agreement. I'll be happy, I don't want to belabor the points, this is a recommendation that came to you before, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Since it had to be advertised, it'll also be appropriate to ask if anyone from the public wants to speak.
Well, yeah, that's next on the invitation for public comment on the proposed lease agreement. Anyone in the room that would like to address council on this proposed lease agreement? Hearing none, I'll ask the council for their thoughts on this request.
Mayor, I move we adopt a resolution authorizing the lease agreement for reference.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell to adopt by reference. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Swears? Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The lease agreement is approved. Mr. Leonard, Airport Authority recommendations concerning renewal of the FBO lease.
Yes, sir. At their special meeting of the Asheboro Airport Authority on November 27th, 2024, the authority discussed the terms and conditions of the new lease agreement between the FBO, Cardinal Air, and the city of Asheboro. The existing lease is set to expire April of 2025. An increase for the maintenance of the fuel truck from $1,200 to $2,000 was requested from Cardinal Air to cover additional expenses from the fuel truck. There were terms of 3 years and 5 years discussed. After discussion, the airport authority unanimously voted to recommend the new lease between the city of Asheboro and Cardinal Air for a 3-year term with the above referenced increase for fuel truck maintenance. In speaking with the chairman, Steve Knight, this past week concerning the agenda for the airport authority, and their regular upcoming meeting in January, they would like to rediscuss the term lease for that, as there's been an issue with the fuel truck. Fuel truck will not do a 3-year lease. They want to do a 5-year lease. So that will be that'll be discussed at the next airport authority meeting.
Mr. Mayor.
So how do we do this?
Mr. Mayor, with your permission, if I could just add one thing. In your packet, I think it adds validity to what Mr. Leonard just said. In your packet, under item 12B, there's the lease agreement with the fixed base operator. If you'll go to page 8 of 15 on that, so this is not the one for approval, it's what is in existence. But 8 of 15, I highlighted on there, you'll see the responsibility, and if you look on the side for the responsibility for the lessor, it says provides funding directly to FBO for airport fuel infrastructure in the amount of $1,200 at the time, recommended to go to $2,000 per month beginning May 1, 2020. The reason I point that out is that change happened in 2020. At that time, 5 years was what you needed for the FBO to be able to lease the fuel truck that they need. So that's what took it to 2025, and going less than 5 would be a variance from what was previously done. I just add that for illustration.
There was also an anomaly in some of the conversation that I think brought about that 3-year conversation from some misunderstanding of a couple of things within the authority. I don't, primarily for the reasons stated, but Cardinal Air is very much desirous of a 5-year obligation for their own stability, as well as the impossibility of the mismatched fuel truck. So there's two highly important items that lend to the 5-year. And that's why the authority wants that back. I fully expect it to come back as a 5-year request.
And that you asked, Mr. Mayor, you don't mind, I'll answer. As far as on the options before you now, you got the recommendation, the city council, and I'm not advocating, but the city council has the option of hearing the recommendation, adopting it in whole, rejecting it, or adopting it in part. So, for example, if you wanted to go with the 5 years, you could and just adopt the $2,000 payment and not wait on the recommendation. And the only reason I bring that up is, just like I mentioned earlier with the hangar, under the leasing rules, we've got to advertise, and we've got to have at least 30 days to advertise. You can do the math. On January the 9th versus the next meeting on February the 6th, we won't be able to get that 30 days done. So the earliest you can take final action on this FBO agreement, which is viewed as a lease agreement, would be at the March council meeting, and it expires in April doing that. So if you wanted to go ahead and do that, you could.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was my next commentary is what we also don't want is fixed base operators of our size and scope are next to non-existent. And in addition to that, we have a good one. That is extremely, two extremely good points. And I know Ms. McGraw, she can't sign the 3-year contract. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And we'll find ourselves in some unfortunate predicament of even trying to run the thing ourselves, which we do not have the capability of doing. I think everybody would be in agreement with that, and we don't need to be supervising those employees when we've got our thing. So I would very much encourage that we should match the lease and make up tonight for a 5-year lease to match the fuel truck with the fuel truck at $2,000 a month, or we could run into an interruption of service that would be untenable.
We're good with that.
And with instructions for staff to publish the required legal notice so it can be back on your agenda for final adoption in March.
They need to be, Cardinal Air has to stabilize their business, and it's just.
So was that a motion?
I'll make a motion that we enact a 5-year lease with Cardinal Air and the $2,000 a month for the fuel truck in order to maintain continuity at the public service.
Is there a second?
Second.
Everywhere, what? Mr. Burks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for clarifying that for us, Jeff, and showing us a way around that little inconsistency. So, Michael Leonard, you're down to recommendations concerning renewal discussion on appointments to the airport authority.
Yes, sir. In February 2025, the terms for the airport authority will expire. In touching base with existing members, the airport authority members that are Mr. Bob Crumley, Mr. Bradley Lanier, Mr. Mark Muncannon, and Chairman Steve Knight have all expressed interest in serving another term. On January 3rd, 2025, you, Mayor Smith, received an email of resignation from Ms. Linda Brown, leaving a vacancy on the board. At this time, we have 3 interested applicants, which are as follows, and I believe that's in your packets. It's Mr. Alan York, Ms. Kim Thomas, and Mr. Randy Freeman. And those packets are for your review and consideration.
Upon review of these, I think you've got 3 perfectly acceptable citizens, but I will go as far as to say Mr. Alan York is very distinctive and exemplary and a commercial pilot and flies for several owners and flies out of Asheboro regularly amongst other places like the Piedmont. So I would nominate Mr. Allen York to fill that open seat.
Was there a recommendation from the authority?
So we have not met since, our next meeting will be the 21st of January, so we have not done a recommendation as of yet from the airport authority because this happened on January 3rd. When she said that.
But you,
I'd be interested in their opinion.
At the very least, we could appoint someone to fill out Linda Brown's term. Is that my
would
understanding?
you say that it expired February?
February
Yeah,
2025,
I mean,
so
It's another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks. Just leave it empty.
Yeah.
Um,
And come back to you.
the following meeting will not be until April, so I can come
So we
back
can
in
come
March
back-
with recommendations from,
Can we come back, but if you meet,
we meet on the 21st, Tuesday the 21st.
can you come back in February with a recommendation?
I'm assuming I could, yeah, just bring it back with a
Which-
recommendation.
Yeah, so if there's four, if the board wants the four members that have agreed to continue, and they can send a recommendation for,
Okay.
if that works for the council.
I think in
Yeah,
the
I agree.
past-
I mean, that's what we did with the planning board, so I think we need to, I want to hear from the airport authority members of what they think.
All right, let's dispense with the motion we have. Mr. Moffitt made a motion to appoint Alan York.
Well, I can withdraw that if that's not the wishes of the council to act on that tonight.
Well, I mean, that was,
But I am privy to the recommendation of the airport authority.
that is what the airport authority would like.
Well, they
for
can,
us to do.
well, they can send it to you. They need to send it to us.
Whatever how y'all want to formally handle it would be fine.
You
Why don't we
say
just report back in February what they sent to you, makes it a lot easier for you.
February sixth?
Do
Yeah.
2 in February?
Well, all the members will be needed.
Application's in here somewhere.
You want 2 recommendations, or
Application, right.
is that what you said?
I was asking.
Oh, I'm sorry. In the past, I think we've done 2 or 3 recommendations,
We're gonna have 2 seats in February.
1 seat,
One seat.
just Linda Brown.
Just Linda.
And you got 3 applicants.
Who's taking, whose seat is Alan York taking?
No.
Linda Brown.
Linda Brown. That would be that's the vacancy currently.
So we'd be asking them to either give us 1 or 2 out of the 3.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Because the way,
Plus-
the way your procedure is laid out that was adopted is that you can either, when there's an opening, you either can fill it without sending it back, or if you send it back, it says council may choose to select a person for appointment, or they may decide to forward the list of applicants to the board for further screening. And if it's forwarded to the board members will return a minimum of 2 recommendations for each opening.
I just know it's nice seeing you.
So 2 recommendations.
A minimum of 2. They're free to send all 3 back if they wanted to, but.
All right, we will leave
So we're
this
not gonna,
open
we're not gonna
until
fill Linda's, we're just
until
gonna wait and do it its term. That's
the
fine.
recommendation comes back from the airport authority in February.
You are free, if you wanted to appoint the members who did not resign. So that's the only thing I was gonna ask you about.
So we can reappoint the 4 that said they wanted to stay.
The incumbents, yes.
Okay.
You could do that. And send over the field of vacancy that's been created by Ms. Brown. Send the 3 names.
I will make a motion that we reappoint the 4 current members that are interested in continuing to serve, and we will await a submittal from the authority to act on the vacant seat.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
That was a hell of a lot of work to get nowhere.
I'm ready to close it up.
Nothing's ever easy.
Right back where we started. We got 1 empty seat, we could have put
Did
Alan.
we already, did we voted on it?
All right,
Are we still on
Discussion.
airport business?
So that's all I've got, but
well,
there's
we're gonna vote on this
packet.
first.
Which
Oh,
one?
yeah.
Got to vote on
You
the
gotta vote. Reappoint.
We need to vote, don't we?
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Damn.
Are we still on airport business? This was in our packet.
I had placed that in your packets as well, and it was not on the agenda, but that just basically, we had discussed that last meeting,
Yes.
and that shows the vacant Well, that all of them are actually, except, with the exception of Mr. Crumley's, have a flying,
Actually have something that
actually
flies.
have a flying vehicle in them, yes.
Could you tell us the size of the Crumley hangar?
I believe it's 100 by 100.
I think that's right. So it's either 80 by 100, 100 by, I
Yeah.
think it's 100 by 100.
I think it's 100 by 100.
Because you can get a big wingspan in it, because that King Air was smaller than that. Is it your understanding that hangar hadn't had aircraft in it in 4 years?
I'm not sure how long. I know he had 2 in it at one time.
He did.
And I'm not sure exactly how long he has been without one in it.
Is it a violation of the lease not have aircraft or be actively getting aircraft put in the hangar?
I think it is, and I think it's also a violation with the FAA.
And it could affect the FAA funding.
That's correct.
Mr. Suggs, how do you suggest we proceed?
If the airport authority is going to be meetings, as they generally are given responsibility for managing the premises on behalf of the city, is to get a recommendation from them back to the council on how they'd want to proceed.
Put wings on that riding mower.
Really?
And that also would involve looking at the specifics of that particular lease. Over the years, there can be a little variation in there as far as.
So
on the
we are the
terms.
leaseor, so eventually if there is any, enforcement, then we'd be the ones doing it.
Yes, that is correct.
Because part of the consideration, I mean, I'm not trying to be too hard on anybody, part of the consideration of these leases is thinking you're gonna get a $1 million aircraft in there for the property taxes. I mean, it's a two-part thing, and we've not had our part in 4 years. And our customers that are being turned away that
There's
want.
a waiting list.
Yeah, and he can, it's within his, I think our lease allows subletting, if I'm not mistaken.
Has to go before the airport authority.
Correct, that's
I mean,
mine.
it's subject to
And it jeopardizes our FAA funding.
conditions and approval, so I mean.
Could potentially,
It's not like there's zero options for the leasee.
That's correct.
And I'll just add, as an illustration of what you say, and why it is important, since the airport authority has control over whether they're subleasing or not, it's important to get their input for management before any action will be taken by the council. But it's also important to look at the particular agreement, because the one you just approved tonight for Hangar P, it has an Article 11, it specifically says, it is understood and agreed that the purposes of this agreement is to provide a place for lessee to store, maintain, repair, and service its aircraft. Any other use to be made of the premises is prohibited unless written approval for such other use is obtained from the Asheboro Airport Authority. And I just add on the tax side, there's another provision that says aircraft stored pursuant to this agreement shall be considered to be based at the Asheboro Regional Airport. So those provisions are in there, but I'll be the first to say, over the years, there's variation in what's been in agreements between when they were first executed and whether they're legacy or not. So that's why I would recommend looking at it and getting a recommendation from the airport authority.
Okay, because it's just not in our best interest to be providing a use store it for, as opposed to aircraft.
Take it back to the airport authority for
Yes,
a
sir.
recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And all that's secondary to the FAA.
All right. Mr. Sugg, you have a final copy of the ballpark lease for Zookeeper Baseball.
Yes, sir. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. I will not, unless you want me to, belabor the point, because it's with one exception, it's the exact same agreement that was brought to you in December. The one exception is to the change that the council directed me to make, which was on the rent. Year one was originally at 1,000, it's now at 2,000. So it's consistent then with years 1 and 2 at 2,000, years 3, 4, and 5 at 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 at 5. And there's the right of, the grant of the right of first refusal that we discussed last time. This has been advertised, and so at this point, ultimately, the action that I'll be asking of you is, do you want to approve the resolution or not? The resolution in front of you approves the lease and authorizes the mayor to execute the lease on behalf of the municipal corporation. And just like before, since it was advertised, it'd be appropriate for public comment.
Is there anyone in the room that would like to address the council regarding this proposed lease of McCurry Park to the Zookeepers Baseball? Hearing none. I'm sorry. Hearing none, I will, close the comment period and ask the council what their thoughts are.
Mayor, I move we adopt a resolution approving the lease agreement by reference.
Have a motion to approve the lease agreement by reference. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Moffett. Discussion.
Has the tenant reviewed this at all?
I have not interacted with them over there. Now,
I mean, the last time we approved it, they came back and saying they didn't like it. I mean, so if, all we've changed is the number, the 2,000 for the first of the year, it's basically like it was. There may be a little clarification. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, so we could be back at this again if they say they're not gonna sign it.
Well, we marked up the original.
Oh, I know, I saw it. I saw that.
All right. Well, so we made those changes.
Do we make them all like they wanted it? I mean,
well, address the concerns for ambiguity for what was perceived to be the comments on there, and most specifically, for me, I don't put words in someone's mouth, the bottom line was on the grant of the right to first refusal, he wanted one or the other. That has been slimmed down to being just a right of, grant of a right of first refusal, and with the clarification that it's not going to trigger the provisions if you put a legally binding obligation in, you being the zookeepers, if you, there's a purported transfer, as long as they're going to continue, the purchasee continues to use the park for the duration of the lease. All that's been clarified. So that section, all of the remarks were addressed. The one area that seemed to be had some ambiguity was over scheduling, and that has been made clear now that the city recognizes and the Recreation Services Director recognizes that it's got to be economically viable, which means broader use for events, and it lists tournaments and things like that can be used.
And we've actually had a case where Jonathan did weigh in recently on a schedule conflict and work that out.
I've actually had two.
Okay. So,
process works.
other than the 1,000, 2,000,
It's worked out.
it's what they asked for.
He's okay with the 2,000.
He is.
And then the purpose of the first refusal was just make sure that we kept the baseball active here.
Exactly.
The programming here, right?
So the answer to the question is, in my professional opinion, I addressed the comments they had and brought them back to the council. The only thing that was changed by the council that wasn't a note that I was looking at was the dollar figure.
What's the what?
The dollar figure.
Dollar figure.
On year one.
All right, well, any other questions or discussion?
Well, I'll say this now, I still share the same concerns I shared last time. The length of the lease being 10 years and the amount of money that they're paying, I don't think it's in the best interest of the city to enter into it. I'll be voting the way I did last time.
Understand. And I appreciate you sharing that with me before.
Yeah.
I mean, beforehand.
Right.
Thank you. All right. Call for question. All in favor of executing this lease with Zookeeper Baseball LLC, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
We have, let the record show we have one dissenting vote. Motion carries. All right, 14 was moved to the top of the agenda. 15, Sunset Film Festival
Started last night.
last night. That's one of Asheboro's native sons, Ty Bruley, bringing his film festival back to Asheboro and the Sunset Theater, and that's exactly what we built that, rehab that theater for. It's good for the community, and just another example of why we have some of the cultural things that we have. Monday the 13th is the tentative closing date for the parking study survey. If you have not, responded to the survey, I would recommend you do that, post haste. The Sunset Theater is on Tuesday the 14th, the Generation Theory. What
Yes,
is-
that is about a half an hour movie, Mayor, produced by the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. And it's about getting young people into public service. And there's some senior people that'll be on the panel discussion afterwards, including me and Chairman Fry. I think we're the two longest serving in Randolph County, probably oldest serving too. And and it spotlights Chairman Fry in the movie, and I can't remember her name. She's doing their program management down there. She's a very dynamic young person, much like we have in our workforce, and it'll be a nice night. Leah, yes.
Okay.
And again, I think it's a great honor that Randolph County was selected to be in the movie. So.
Friday the 17th at 7 o'clock is Friday Night Bluegrass. The entertainment that night is a band called River Ridge at the Sunset Theater. Monday the 20th is Martin Luther King Jr. Day holiday. The offices will be closed, and I haven't heard yet, but I'm assuming there will be a breakfast gathering on the east side. Would encourage council members to go if we find out more information about it. And then
Friday, Mayor, January 31st is the Chamber of Commerce annual meeting and awards banquet at Pinewood Country Club. We have reported everyone for tickets. So.
If you are not going to use your ticket, let Joanne know.
That includes spouse or partner.
Yeah, and otherwise, come by and get your tickets from Joanne, you and your spouse.
So she has the tickets, John? John, she's got the tickets already?
We put our order in, yes, ma'am.
Got it.
We went by this, Adam emailed me, and I went by this morning and put our order in.
Awesome.
All right.
No physical ticket, got it, okay.
Council, is there anything that you'd like to add to this calendar?
I could not hear when John was talking about the warming station. That is going now? We have
Yes,
a
it
warming station?
started
Started
today.
tonight, yes, sir.
Where's that at?
The George Washington Carper Center on East Salisbury Street.
Okay, all right, I forgot about that.
And it's triggered by 20 degrees or colder, what I saw.
That's what they've said, yes, sir.
What they've said.
I've had current schedules through Sunday, 7 p.m. to.
And I can tell you that over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're liable to have plenty of nights.
I know,
that the
it's
warming center
brutal.
will be.
We gotta be, I'd hate to have somebody die on the street like that. Really, not good.
Okay, Kelly, we'll start with you.
Okay, two things that I just want to share that I'm really proud and happy about. I'm really proud of the process that we went through to hire a new city manager. Everybody sitting up at this table was involved and communicative, and we had good, healthy, robust discussion. And I know we were really pleased with the pool of candidates that we had. I also want to just tell John, thank you for the grace and professionalism that you showed throughout the process. You were shuttling these people around and telling them about the job, and I think that really, I think that really added to their positive experience that they had here. So thank you so much for your involvement in that. And I know we're all excited to welcome Donald and his family here with us. Also want to say the 2 Christmas events that we had this year were fantastic. And I'm so glad that Chief Brown, you're here. Jonathan, you're here. Jimmy, you're here. I hate David left. Obviously, the city is integrally involved in those events being successful. And we had a really good debrief meeting this morning to just talk through what we can do better next year. The city certainly appreciates the partnership with the chamber that we have on that event. But just talk to so many people that get so much out of both of those events, particularly Christmas on Sunset. The number of people that I talk with, that's their Christmas, that's their kids' Christmas. It just warms your heart and makes it worth all the work and the behind-the-scenes stuff that always happens. So I'm just grateful to the city staff for their role in that, and all the work that's going to be done here with this cold weather coming up. Just grateful that we have the team that we have. Very grateful.
There was a little write-up in the Randolph Reporter, Randolph Record.
Randolph Record about, yes.
About the Christmas events, and gave us some good coverage there.
And the tree lighting too. The tree lighting went well too. So we had 3 really
Well, the tree lighting had
well
a whole lot
attended.
more people than I thought would.
Yes.
And-
Yes.
And I want to thank Jimmy Cagle back there for making that happen. And I was kind of surprised that we had the number of people. It was roughly 100 people.
The social district.
Yeah.
The social district was open.
Yep. So, our Christmas season downtown was good.
And all the lights and everything, of course, always look fantastic. And that just gets better and better every year. So just the whole thing. I'm just grateful.
While we're talking about lights, Jimmy, you want to give us just stand up where you are and give us a heads up on the street lights on Sunset.
Okay, I don't know whether you know it or not, but Duke Energy has turned over the streetlight program to Mostech out of Dunn, okay?
Oops.
Okay, well, the gentleman I've been dealing with seems to be, he seems to be real receptive, and he's helped us a whole lot. I know he helped us last week up at the impound yard at the waste treatment plant. They have new fixtures ordered. The old high-pressure sodium fixtures, they no longer keep parts for those. So there will be LED fixtures to replace those as quick as they come in.
We're gonna do all of Sunset?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right now, half of Sunset has no street lights. The east side from the railroad tracks down, and it's kind of dark out there at this time of year and early in the evening with no street
I
lights.
talked with him again this week and told him our concerns.
So,
Will we use the current fixtures? I mean, the architectural
They will
aspect
be,
of it?
they
or
might
will-
possibly be a little bit of a different color green, but, as high as they are, I don't think we'll be able to tell.
But just not like a.
No, they're gonna be a.
Architectural.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah, not a.
and the light might be a little different because
It'll be a
they're
different
LED
color,
lighting.
yes.
Be wider.
All right. Thank you, Jimmy. Sorry to drop that on you. Charlie?
It's an exciting time, bittersweet time. We hate to see John's tenure coming to an end, but it's an exciting time. I think we have made an excellent choice in the city manager that we have chosen. I appreciate very much his family being here this evening. I think that exemplifies the fact that the family is going to be integrated into the city, and that's keeping up John's tradition in that regard also. So it's been a good month. I'm looking forward to January.
Clark?
I'll echo what they said, and you, Mayor, when you complimented Matt for his participation, it was very helpful as we went through this process, and I think that we needed to publicly acknowledge that.
Well, I want to thank the council for stepping back and allowing him to do what we've asked him to do. You know, early on, we had a lot of different ideas, and we actually let him do his job. He did what we asked him to do and gave us some great candidates, and so I think in the end, we're gonna be well served by Mr. Duncan.
Well, it's just that we're reaping the benefits of strong and wise leadership previously that brings us to good leadership and good procedures to stick with that to get where we are. And I thank everybody for their participation.
Yeah, so we'll keep saying the same thing over and over here, but we're really gonna miss, John, and thank you for your service that you've given us for all these years. And it was a wonderful process. It was good, and I'd really like to thank Kelly, because Kelly was very instrumental as we would meet as a group because of her recent experiences with making these decisions, and we would rely on you as a newer council member for your expertise, and we thank you for that. And also, thank you for dressing up every year as a snow queen. Christmas on Sunset, because we look forward to finding you. And we, as you met some of our friends who come from other cities around the Triad, because they think that Asheboro is the bomb when it comes to doing Christmas, because in Kernersville, they don't do anything like this. So they come here to see us, and they really were excited to meet you.
It is one of the best things that I do.
She walked up behind me,
It's
tapped me on
fun.
the shoulder, I went, what? But, anyway, I saw something amazing at Sunset on Christmas on Sun, whatever.
Christmas on
I was
Sunset.
walking down Church Street, went to listen to the choir, and there was a line from the middle of the street into Central Bakery.
Oh, yeah.
See, they
All
They
night.
sold out of
I
cookies.
never seen they like
It's
it.
the best night they ever had.
They sold out of cookies, literally.
I believe it. They had two ladies in there,
nothing
man, they
left.
were going to it. I kind of felt sorry for them. But I never
they
seen
sold
anything
out.
like that. That's good.
And the line for Santa Claus was over an hour, I believe it was.
I had to cut it off at 8:15 when we still went past.
And the line for the horse-drawn carriages was at least an hour. And what I told the reporter, when he stopped me and asked me to comment, and what I tell him, what I tell everybody is, if you look around, we take a lot of pride in that event because it provides some Christmas excitement for people that would not have any had they had to pay.
Yeah.
If they have to pay to ride a horse, horse-drawn carriage, or, you know, that type of thing. It's a totally, other than Central Bakery, a totally free event. And it is, that's why I think it's so important that we do it.
Absolutely.
And that we do it the way we do it. That, and the tree lighting. That little boy that I got to flip the switch was about to wet his pants. I mean, he was excited. So, it makes me thankful to be mayor of this community.
I want to, of course, I echo like everybody else, the whole process that we went through. I thought we worked well as a group. One thing I wanted to touch back on and sort of share with everybody was when we first started over a year ago, Matt was sort of, I thought, on the fence about how many applications we would receive. He said, you know, there was just, you know, he said there were, and then he was blown away, along with us, with all the interest that was generated with that job. And I think that's a testament to Asheboro, and I think it's a testament to the management of Asheboro over the years. And, because we had I thought we had an outstanding slate to pick from. And, you know, and I do think we got the right guy. But I just thought it ought to reassure everybody that Asheboro's, at least the position of city manager, and Asheboro itself is held in high regard around the state.
And
Probably
mayor's,
68 that don't like us as much as they did, though.
Mayor's still somewhat suspect, but.
Well, also,
manager-
we all know that,
in
David.
pretty
We just
good
don't
shape
mention
with
it.
the manager.
Jury's come in on me, Mayor.
All right, staff,
Also like Matt and I went out with
we appreciate you.
Mayor, I wanna
Mr.
say before
Engineer,
we
we appreciate you being patient with us tonight and sitting here all night.
Mayor, before we go, I do, you know, we pick on Jonathan about short pants and short sleeves, but he and his team do a dang good job down there. And we know they do a good job because we just recognize what they do. Right? We don't even think about them doing it, you know, this stuff just happens. But when you're, what do you say, Eddie? It's like a duck floating on water. You don't see the feet paddling below. That's what Jonathan and his team are doing, so they do a fantastic job. And he's a sports guy, I am too, so we always talk about Red Sox and the Yankees. About time to start talking about them. And I've enjoyed working with you. It's been an honor.
Same. Thank you.
Chief, good to have you here tonight.
Sir.
I appreciate everything your guys do.
And I'd say the
your
same for
guys
Jim.
and gals.
And I'd say the same thing for Jimmy's crew. Again, once you start knowing them and been on the council a while, you know their faces. You'll see them everywhere. Man, they're over here, they're at the golf course, they're at the cemetery, they're here at City Hall.
They're gonna earn their money tomorrow night.
They're gonna.
Yeah, just tell them to be careful.
We
See
had
that
a,
thing in Greensboro, man, it really makes you think, I tell you.
we had a pre-storm meeting yesterday, and we went through all our, as David said, all our preventive maintenance checks and services on our equipment, our chainsaws, all our safety gear. If somebody doesn't have safety gear, it doesn't pass inspection, we go get them more, so. And it's, I said it, I say it every time we have one, it's John's rule, you know, the more we prepare, the luckier we get. And we'll prepare as hard as we can. It is a long night in a snowplow. We picked the mayor up and he gets out an hour later, but those guys gotta keep going, so. You're qualified on straight, flat streets, Mayor.
Qualified with a
That's yours.
chainsaw too. My wife gave me a plastic chainsaw for Christmas that makes bubbles. So I think she was giving me a message. All right, well, starting at 6 seems to help a little bit.
Yeah, the game's on.
I get to go home tonight before my bedtime. So, Bill, always good to have you here. And the media. Appreciate you covering us. So, we'll see you shortly. I would encourage everybody to try to go to the Chamber of Commerce banquet, annual meeting.
You're gone, sure enough.
Yeah, sure enough.
Okay.
Thanks.
Mayor,
We
just so
are-
everybody know that Notre Dame and Penn State are scoreless with 1 minute to go in the first quarter.
Oh, time to go then.
There we go.
We're done.